Hello, my name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another used book rant. Today I'm going to be discussing this book, Alliance, subtitle Fringe Colonies, Book 1. This is written by Talia Beckett. I paid for it at Koaz Books last year for $6.98, and I'd say it was well spent money. I paid for this in early May of 2025, along with War of the Spark Ravnica, which I suspect I bought for my brother. I want to say it was a funeral in town, and my brother really likes the Magic the Gathering art books as well as the novels, so I'm fairly certain I bought that for him and this book at the same time. This book is version 1.0, January 2022. The cover by Bandre is what it says. Copyright Jess Mountefield. But I think Talia Beckett is a pseudonym for the author. This page says connect with the author, and then it has links. Like, it just printed links, and let me show you that again. It says Facebook group, Discord group, actual play D&D streams, Twitch or YouTube. Bizarre that they printed it that way, but if it saves money just to print the whole thing and not worry about page numbers, I don't know, it seems a bit funny. There's a bit of damage to the cover. I don't know how easy it is to see this, but like, covers usually don't fold that way or open that way. So it's a good book. It was a fun read, and I do kind of want to see the other books in this series, but it's clearly self-published. It may not have been the best publishing company because the binding isn't great and is falling apart after just a bit of reading, but it felt like if you've ever seen the Clear Skies movies, which Clear Skies was a trio of movies using EVE Online ships to tell like a privateer's an independent ship's stories. And one of the lines they share in that series is like, I remember we used to knock holes in other people's hulls. And the crew in Clear Skies is down on their luck. They're always struggling with finances, barely making enough money to get by, and putting a lot of money they do earn right back into their ship to repair it from damage taken during the previous mission. So that's kind of what this book feels like, but with a bit more swashbucklery kind of stuff going on. The basis of this story is that the main character, Kit, is trying to start a career as an independent shipping company and has a hard time doing so because it turns out the ship she was encouraged to buy is really faulty. And so she starts her career, but very quickly has to sign up with another crew to save up money. She already has a ship, but to sell that one to buy a better ship, to start working on that one. She wants to be independent. She does at times run small missions, small jobs where she is the captain of her ship, and there's 3 or 4 other people who they have their own things they're trying to buy and are using her storage space to ship it. And the jobs happen. She is being at times a captain of her own crew, but then she's also working for another captain whose name is Dante. And Dante's, it almost feels like Kit is the B plot despite her being the main character, which is an interesting writing choice because Dante's story is the actual main plot. There is a local pirate crew that is clean enough in port in the station to be getting normal delivery jobs while also paying pirates to help them sabotage other businesses' efforts. And at the start of the story, the villain, that competition in the shipping industry, has a monopoly on like ship parts and that kind of thing. And so Dante is trying to put together a group that is willing to stick by each other and help each other out. They're independent, but united in like a peace treaty almost. They're still competition, but they'll help each other out if they see someone else in that group getting attacked. So Kit is not just running her own small-time business, she's also serving as a crew member on Dante's crew, and there is some degree of like ship to ship combat, but for the most part you're only destroying another ship if you don't care about the goods that are in them. If you want to steal what they have, you have to board that ship and then you have to fight in melee combat. So in this case, in Alliance, there's a lot of ship to ship combat, but there's also, running from pirates and doing quick piloting. There's some hand to hand combat. And what I like about this, more so than a lot of other books with female leads, is that Kit isn't, she doesn't excel at anything, but she is capable enough to defend her crew sometimes, and then in sometimes she loses. She is a capable enough pilot to get herself out of bad situations, but not out of awful and cataclysmic situations. She can find solutions, but she struggles, and that struggle is integral to a good hero's story, and that's what makes this book. It's short. It's only 230 pages, 235 pages. It's a short 235 page novel, but that hero's journey is important, and it sticks to it, not in a cookie cutter way, but it does it well enough that it doesn't feel strange. It also doesn't feel new in a weird way. I don't like a lot of like the military sci-fi. I don't like the philosophical side of things. The Ancillary Justice, that Imperial Raj trilogy, is about as far into the philosophical side of things as I want to be getting. Terraformers is another good example of just, it's almost too philosophical, whereas this is the sort of science fiction that feels like a Age of Sail kind of story. And Age of Sail sci-fi is some of my favorite kind of story. This feels like, if Star Wars centered on Han Solo's career outside of his involvement with the rebellion, and a bit, maybe beforehand, this is the sort of thing where it's an independent plucky crew. They're going from port to port. Most of the stories revolve around the ship, because that's what we're here for, is that Age of Sail kind of story. And when Age of Sail focuses too much on land and away from port, that's when we get into kind of frontier cowboy stories. This, thankfully, is more Age of Sail, but even frontier sci-fi cowboy kind of stories, though, like Frontier Justice sci-fi, that is really fun as well. But when it gets really philosophical about the future, I'm not as big a fan. And, you know, I do say I'm not a big fan of mill sci-fi, but like, I like the Buchanan campaign. I like that trilogy because it's about innovation and it's about war, but it's not the Honor Harrington stories, which my dad really loves, and he has a whole multiple bookshelves full of those stories. So my grandpa really liked the Halo novels, but specifically for the mill sci part of things. And, you know, those books have their place on the bookshelves in the bookstores. But what I always look for is the low philosophical, high adventure kind of stories. And this one does it really well. I don't know how much this would have cost new because it's self-published, it doesn't have like a price value on the back. But it I paid $7 for this. I think my money was well spent, and I am looking forward to seeing other stories in this kind of series. I've also been buying other sci-fi stories in this vein. There's one right behind me over my left shoulder. It's probably hidden by me. Let me see the name of it though. It's called Mechanical Failures. You can kind of see it. It's not there. It's that one right there with a white line on the spine. So I am looking forward to that one, and it's looking for this kind of sci-fi that really intrigues me because I do like that frontier justice kind of sci-fi. I do like that Age of Sail kind of sci-fi, and I'm hoping that I can find other stories like it. So, yeah, my name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another used book rant.